Anyone?
Driving the method using the keywords.
Yes.
Excel.
So keyword driven is like driving methods using keywords, which is nothing but method names, right? From Excel. Simple, right? So what's the data driven from? Driving the data from an external source, right? So that external source can be anything, depending upon how what are you going to automate. The external source can be Excel, it can be a JSON, it can be even a database, it can be anything, right? So how we are going to model these things to your data, I mean to your framework, that matters. Previously we had this Excel. I mean, even though most of the companies are big companies who want to make big scenarios are using the Excel. Most of the tests which heavily depend upon test data. For example, when I was working in this insurance and insurance kind of projects, this test data was very important. Actually, there are so many fields to fill across multiple pages in the particular web application, and this test data is kind of very important there. Not only a single test data kind of thing, it's kind of a multiple test data for a single application, right? Anyone encountered those kind of scenarios? Actually, like what kind of projects are you working, Mithun or Vinay?
I'm working on ERP domain.
Okay.
I am working on retail projects.
Okay. Even retail, I think many form field will be there, I guess.
Yes, coach.
Uh, Once I was working in a retail domain called UPS, United Parcel Service. Anyone aware of that? Okay. Whatever. So in those kind of scenarios, Excel is important. But nowadays, people are trying to move to JSON. So why JSON is important? Because it is easy to read directly from the Java itself. I mean, not from directly from Java. What I mean to say is like it's easy to read through the Java library and easy to write without having any heavy kind of uh, editing tools which is needed for Excel. For example, you need some MS Office and all, right, to do Excel things and all. It's very heavy. You cannot go and directly attach an Excel sheet. You have to keep it elsewhere. You have to use git ignore to ignore the Excel sheet while time of pushing the data to git repository and all, because it's very heavy. So but with the kind of JSON, it's very simple, right? You just have to create JSON. JSON can be read across multiple uh, programming languages, multiple environments also, right? So very easy to use JSON. And there might be requirements where you have to connect to. Most of the time there might be requirements to connect from the database as well, right? This database is replaced by this API actually, kind of, nowadays. So database we can directly connect and take data directly using queries. That is one method. What is the second method is like using an API. We can hit that API, still get the data, and use in our projects, right? So API is still again going to hit the DB, but hitting the API is kind of one more abstract layer over our direct connection to the database, because connecting to database is always not secure, right? Directly through towards the test code and all. It has to be very securely done. So back in the developers, what they do, they provide these APIs, right, for us direct to consume the data from the database. This APIs will hit the database servers, and we'll get the data and give it back to us. So this also we will be able to uh, drive the data from data driven. But today we are going to see this most common method Excel thing. Yesterday also we saw an example, right, how to read the data from Excel and all. So this is going to be just a continuation of that. Okay. So yesterday we saw some things, right? We initialized this path, workbook, sheet, a row, and those things. And through the constructor, we set the path of that Excel sheet, and we say create connection. It will set all the proper things for us. Like it will get the file as an input stream. It will set the workbook. It will set the sheet, and it will assign these values to the particular objects that we declared here. And yesterday in the keyword driven, what we saw, uh, get all methods for the test case. So it will return all the method keyword that we declare for across the corresponding test case, and through reflections we can invoke that. Right? We saw that. So how- so I have this keyword driven thing still here. I have this test case name. I have these two method names that we are going to drive. But additionally, what I'm having here is in the sheet two. You can see in the sheet two, I'm having the same test case name with the data here, right? Test case 001, test case 001, but with the data that is present in the separate test sheet here. So our goal is to okay. Let's say we have this two we had these two methods, right? Launch browser and those things. So our goal is to get the data from the same Excel sheet across from the same test case for the same test case and drive to our web application. We'll create that method itself. We have this launch browser already there. We don't want to do any changes from here. All the changes that are need to be done are to be done in for this input selection thing, right? Yesterday, if you remember, we hard coded the data actually for the selection, right? So maybe we'll try to take the data from the Excel itself, and we'll try to drive this. So, so how do you think we can design a method to get a data from the Excel? We also saw some rough example yesterday, right? Can anyone say? I have this data as a separate. I think it's open here. It's open here. Okay. In the sheet two, I have this separate data kind of thing. This column name can be anything depending upon your project requirements and all. But let's say we have this test case name in the column 0 and remaining data for the corresponding test case in column 1. Let's say I'm putting this as Selenium test. This is the data that we wanted to read from the Excel. So what can be the approach? Can anyone guess? Mithun or Vinay?
No Karthik, no idea.
Okay, okay, no problem. So we need to have some kind of mapping, right? For example, uh, in this particular sheet, I can have n number of data. I can have data 2, I can have data 3, data 4. I can have some random data here in all the columns, right? But for one single test case. But for our corresponding input selection, we need to know what is the test case and what is the column data that we want to return for that particular um, instance or particular time for which element we are bound to drive the data. What I mean by that is, let us see with an example. For example, I'm creating a method. Okay, so all the data that we read from there, we are going to get it as a string only. Later on, if it's a number, we can convert that as a number. Those kind of things we can do later. But let's say we are having returning all those methods as all those data as a string only. A string as a return type. Let's give some name to the method. So we need two things to get a data for the corresponding test case. What are those two things? We need a row name and we need a column name. Row name is a test case and column name is the what data that we wanted to read. Right. So we will pass that. Right. So now I need to write some logic here so that I can get the data from sheet for the corresponding test case name and the data here and return back as a string. So we want to iterate through rows and columns to read the row and column, right? Since like we have all the columns here, we can have n number of test cases in this rows also, right? That is also one possible. So we want to iterate to rows also to find the corresponding test case, iterate to columns also to find the corresponding data that we wanted to read for those test case. What I'll do is I initialize two variables. So row number, let me initialize to -1. I'm initializing this row number and column number to -1 now. So what I will do, to iterate through all the rows, I need to get, I need to first know what are the total number of rows in that particular sheet which we wanted to drive, right? So we have this method called get last row num, which is given by Apache Poi. You can use that thing. It will return the last row which contain data in the particular Excel sheet, right? So now we got a total number of rows here. So what we wanted to do, we just wanted to find which row here. Here for simplicity's sake, we have only one test case, but assume that there are 10-15 test cases, and we have this row name, which is a test case name. So we wanted to know which row the corresponding row name matches with our iteration number, right? So I'm iterating to the row. Um, so I'm iterating through total number of rows. So what I will do is like we saw yesterday the same example, right? We'll match some if condition to match with the row name that we got as an method argument. So sheet dot get row, and what is the row number, which is the iterated value I, and what is the cell number that we are looking? Cell number is the zeroth column only. Right? Zeroth column only will contain the test case name. So here always the cell number will be 0, right? So so here we say get a cell number, get a cell 0 and get string cell value, right? So get string cell value will return the corresponding value or data that is present across the corresponding row and column. Here, row is the iterated row and column is the zeroth column, because zeroth column only contains that test case name that we wanted to actually identify. Right? We wanted to validate if it is equals to row name, right? That's our goal, right? So if it is equal to row name, what we are doing is like we are setting this data row number to I, because this particular data row number only, this corresponding row number only will contain the test case name that we are looking for, right? So if this condition passes, then we don't want to iterate to remaining loops. I can just say break here. You're getting the logic here, right?
Yes, correct.
I'm just iterating through the rows, and I'm just finding the getting each cell value, and I'm just comparing with the input argument that we passed. If that matches, then I'm just assigning this ith value to the data row number, and I'm breaking it. So similarly, we wanted to do for columns, right? Same approach. So can anyone say what will be the condition here?
I equal to 0,
J is equal 0.
0.
We want to find the column name. No.
Yes.
Yeah. Can you,
And
what will the next condition?
J less than or equal to total column.
J less than or equal to. We want to get that sheet, right?
Yes. Yes.
So what will be the row number here? Can you see this sheet and say what should be the row number that we wanted to iterate here? We wanted to search for this column, right? What column that we wanted to take the data. So row number should be 0 here, right? Getting me point? So we want to match with this with row and column name. Row name will be here, column name will be here.
Yes, correct.
So I want to iterate to the first row, which is row number 0. So how much times I want to iterate? I want to get physical number of cells. That method we saw, right? So get physical number of cells, return how much data is actually there that is filled across each columns here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It will return 5 as a value here, right? Get physical number of cells, and we say j plus plus, and same logic. So we wanted to compare the column data now. if sheet dot get row get row of 0, and here we want to iterate to the column, right? Here what column we want to iterate? We want to iterate through j number of columns, right? And if that we'll get the string cell value. If that string cell value is equals to our column name, then same approach. We will say data column number is equal to j, and we have matched our column name also. Then we will do a break. So we're getting the logic right here. So what is the one final thing that I wanted to do here? So I know the row number of our data that we are looking for. I know the column number of the data we are looking for. I just wanted to go to the particular row and column and take the data out from that Excel sheet. Right? That's the only thing that is remaining. So let's say I'm assigning a value string. Let's say output is equal to same logic, sheet dot get row. What row we wanted to get? Data row number we wanted to get. And what column we wanted to get? Data column number we wanted to get. And we will just say get string cell value. So here I'm having this sheet. I know the row number, I know the column number. I'm just going to the get row, to that corresponding row, get column corresponding column number, getting the string cell value. Now I'm just going to return the output. Very simple, right? So this is how even production or actual framework people are reading the data. So it's a very reusable method, right? If we assign the sheet and give the row name and column name, which is a test case name and the data name, we can get any number of data in the particular sheet. We can call this reusable method again and again to get the data for whatever thing we want. Right? We'll try to use this particular method in our Excel. I mean, so far so clear, right, everyone? So we are just iterating through a rows, finding the corresponding row which matches, iterating through the columns, find the corresponding column which matches. Now we have row number and column number. I'm just getting the string cell value of the row number and column number and returning as an output. Fine, right?
Yes, good.
Now I can create a method like this. Method name is input selection, right? Now there are a thing which you wanted to notice. We don't have this data Excel object here, right? So we wanted to create a data Excel object here so that we know this method can be used in this particular class also. So we'll create an object here, data Excel. We'll initialize here itself using the path. We'll copy this path. We'll copy this path here. So now we have initialized this data table Excel here itself. So now what we'll try to do, we wanted to create connection here, right? First, it will throw an exception. So if you go to this create connection, you can see this particular piece of code, right? Can you say what changes need to be done uh, here in, I mean, in this particular method, so that we can access the data from our Excel sheet? This is our Excel sheet, right? We cannot just go and use this particular thing directly, although we have created the connection to an Excel sheet. Can you say what one change that need to be done here by seeing this particular create connection method to get the data from there?
Karthik, can you just repeat the question?
I mean, see, if you see here, create connection, we have initialized file input stream and workbook and sheet and all, right? Now this is our data table. We have this particular keywords in the sheet 1 and the data in the sheet 2 for the corresponding test case. So what one change that need to be done here in this method, so that we can take the data from the Excel sheet for the particular test case by seeing this particular create connection method?
Do we need to change the sheet?
In the sheet.
Yeah, we need to change the sheet, right? That's a simple thing. So we'll say data dot sheet is equal to data dot workbook dot get sheet at index 1, right? Now since the sheet is assigned for this particular object, we can directly go and access the data, right? Oh, let's say we'll give some other name, string. Okay, let's say yes is equal to. So we'll call this method that we have created, get data for the test case. For now, we'll hardcode this case name. We want the data for this test case 001, and we wanted this data 1 data actually. All right. So now we have our data. Then it's a matter of going to this particular website and finding that element, right? So we wanted to drive this data for this particular input selection. I think we did yesterday. We have this name field, right? Email ID. We can use that. Driver dot find element by dot name dot send keys. We are sending this yes. that we have read from the Excel. Let's check this. So the driver method remains the same. Okay, where this is taking the data from? I'll do this one more time. This keyword that was sent to the text was the previous data that I had on this column. I don't know why this is taken here now. Let me save this and try one more time. Okay, now it is taking correctly. Selenium test. Whatever we had in this particular column. Okay, we are getting the high level picture, right? And this is how we take the data from the Excel sheet. For example, uh, let's say I have one more data here. Okay, let us do some more things here. Let us click on submit. Okay, I think email is asking. Let's go to some other page, or let's put an email ID itself here. Mm, So let's say I wanted to validate this particular text is there or not. I can still put this particular text for validation inside the data 2 itself. Okay. So now what I'll do, I'll modify this particular thing also. Just given one dummy email ID and given one data to validate for the after clicking the submit button. So we'll try to take the X path of the submit button. We have this name attribute here. For simplicity's sake, I'm using thread.sleep here. Let's wait for 1 second and let's wait for 4 more seconds here. And once this page appears, I wanted to validate this particular text. I'll take this X path and I'll get text and validate. So I'm just using this assert actually. Let's say I have two strings, string uh, page element. I'm just using this XPath and I'm using this getText attribute, getText method to get the text from the corresponding element. I'm passing this as an actual value. So what is the expected value? That is expected value should be the one which is driven from the Excel sheet. Okay? Excel element is equal to, I can use this same thing here, right? Data. Copy this. Instead of data 1, I just need to give data 2, right? So for the corresponding test case, across the data 2 column, I have this the thing which I wanted to validate, right? Just save this. So I just copy this Excel thing and put it in the expected. Now it is going to assert for us. Let's try to run this and see what happens. Okay. Okay, the execution has stopped. We didn't get an assertion as passed actually. So if we had gotten some error, assertion would have failed. Let's say, let's check that also. We have this Excel element. Let's say we have this page element plus 1, 2, 3. Let's try to fail our test case. Let's see what happens. Okay, here we see this assertion has failed, right? Oh no, okay. Okay, okay, comparison failure. So here assertion has failed, right? Expected, but actual was something along with 1, 2, 3. So that's how we do. So we can drive this n number of data from the Excel sheet like this and compare here. Very and simple to do, right? This is how you implement a data-driven framework in our Selenium. Create a data table class, create a reusable method to get the data across the corresponding test case, and use it across your core logic classes wherever you need, right? Any questions until now?
Karthik. Karthik.
Yeah. Hi, Shiva.
Yeah. Hi. Can you just run through it again? Like I just started late. If you can just give an overview again from the scratch. Just
Okay, sure, sure. So we were discussing about data-driven framework. Yesterday, we saw about the keyword-driven. So how we are driving the particular thing to keyword-driven is like, see in our Excel sheet. In the sheet 1, we have this test case name and we have this series of keywords that we wanted to launch for our test case to be working. Okay, so these are the launch browser will launch the Chrome browser driver.get and those kind of things it will do. And input selection will just pass some random text to the field just we saw now, right? To that, and we click the submit button and validate something. So what we initially do is like in the driver method, this is actual driver class. Driver class in the sense which is actually driving the execution of the particular test we wanted to do. So we are taking everything from the Excel sheet, right? So we need to create an Excel sheet to handle all these logics first, and first thing, right? So what are the things which we wanted to know for doing that? We wanted to know the path of the Excel sheet. We wanted to know what is the workbook, and we wanted to know the sheet. We wanted to know the row. These are the important things which we wanted to know to read the data of any data from the Excel sheet. Where is the Excel sheet located? What is the workbook? What is the sheet? And what is the row which you are trying to get the data from? So once we initialize these things, we are having this constructor which is taking a single argument of Excel path. So while creating an object for this class, we are passing where the Excel sheet itself, where the particular Excel sheet resides itself, right, in the constructor argument. And we are having this reusable method called create connection. So we know where is the Excel sheet through this path, but we need to create a connection through our code programmatically so that we can read the data from the Excel. So that is what we are doing here. We are using file is a thing which is given by Java to read files, right? And file input stream is to get the data as bytes. This is a binary file, right? Actually, Excel things are binary files to get the data as a input stream. And we declare this workbook here, right? Our workbook is a generic interface which is given by Apache file library. Our Excel sheet is a .xls file, right? It's a .input.xls file. So if it is an XLS, we use HSS workbook class to initialize that. If it is an XLSX or later versions, we use XSSF workbook like we show here. There are two variants, HSSF and XSSF. So since our Excel is XLS, we use HSSF workbook by passing this file input stream as an argument. And what sheet we are having this keyword driven things is sheet number 0, right? Go to the first sheet, index start from 0. In sheet number 0 only we have this keywords that are to be driven. So we initialize thing with the sheet number 0 itself and create connection to the particular Excel sheet. Now create connection part is done. So we wanted to read this particular data, that method names from the Excel sheet, so that we can launch those methods using Java reflections. Right. So to do that, we are iterating through all the rows, and we are getting the corresponding row number, and we are getting the corresponding cell number, and we are getting corresponding string cell value. This is how you go to row number. Get cell is getting the column number, and get string cell value is getting the value actually from the row and column which is matched, right? And we are adding to this array list, and we are returning this array list itself. Now output of this particular method will be all the method names. Here in this example we have two. We can give n number of infinite number of methods here, method name here. Everything will be taken and put it into this particular array list, and it will be returned. Now keyword driven part is over. Now we have come to this data driven part. So now we need to know where is the particular row and column for our data to be targeted, right? So what we are doing, we are keeping all the data in a separate Excel sheet here against a particular test case. Here we have these two data for here, right? Email ID and text. So what we are trying to do, we are trying to get this data from the Excel sheet itself at the runtime for this corresponding test case. And we need to have some reusable method to do that. Every time you cannot create a connection to a Excel sheet and go to a particular row and column thing and all, and iterate to row and column to find the test case and test data. We cannot do every time. We have to have this reusable method. So what this reusable method is will do is like we wanted to know which row and which column for the data that we are looking for. Right? So initially we initialize to that -1, and in that sheet we are getting the total number of rows to be able to iterate to the row. We are iterating to the every row, and if the first column of that row value matches to our row name, we are assigning this to this particular row number to the data row number we initialized here, and we are breaking it. Similarly, same thing we are doing for column, iterating to all the column in the first row, because in the first row only we have all the column values, data 1, data 2, what data we wanted to take. Okay. Iterating through all the column in the first row, and if the column value matches with the input argument passed column name, we are assigning to j, assigning the particular thing to data column number. We are putting a break. Now getting the data is very easy. Output is getting the particular row, which is data row number, getting the particular column, which is data column number, and getting its value and returning its value. Okay. Now we are using all these things that we have did in our driver method. Driver method, as we say, it's actually driving the test execution. Right? So we are creating a connection to our Excel sheet by giving a path and calling this create connection method. And we are calling this get all methods for test case. We saw that, right? It will return all the keywords that are to be executed for this particular test case. We got that as in an array list. Okay? Now we using reflections, just get all the methods for the particular class, and we are iterating through all the methods. If the method name matches with one in the array list, then we invoke that method. So in the same way, all the methods in this particular class will be invoked one by one, since in what order that we have given. Initial launch procedure will be invoked, so that this particular 2 lines will be called to invoke a browser and get the particular URL. And in the second instance, this input selection will be called to reflection. We are creating connection to the Excel sheet, connecting to the particular sheet where we have data, and getting the data from the Excel sheet is as simple as calling that method and passing the row number and column number. So we are using these kind of elements in our assertions and those kind of things to test our web page. This is the basic thing.
So for the data driven also, we need to have the keyword driven.
No, actually, the data-driven concept that we discussed today is only related to this particular method we have created, right?
Okay.
Yeah, we need to have this things declared, and we need to create connection and forget this method. This is for keyword-driven. So for data-driven, we have this method, right? So the single method is able to do all the work that we wanted to derive from the Excel. I was explaining previously, like data-driven is not only Excel. It can be a JSON, it can be DB, it can be an API. But in this case, most of the companies are using this Excel to drive the data, right? So this is how we wanted to do if we want to drive from Excel from data. So we are using this in our input selection, getting the particular sheet and driving that. This is total data-driven framework. So what's a hybrid framework? Then whatever we did combinedly, keyword-driven, data-driven. Here, this is a typical example of an hybrid framework actually. So we have our keyword-driven part, we have a data-driven part. We have combined actually both. So this is a small hybrid framework that we have actually created here. All right, so
Karthik, yeah. If you have used the keyword driven to get the sheet, the zeroth sheet to get the methods, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So there you have implemented the keyword driven.
Yeah.
If you're not using that, then what would be the approach?
Okay, you wanted to call the method through somehow, right? That is how the framework is actually designed, right? So whenever using a framework, either you can go for this keyword driven approach, or you can go for this cucumber kind of approach actually, right? Somehow you wanted to have some mapping to your test step to call those methods, right? How we are going to do is a big question, right? So if you are not calling the method from the particular Excel sheet, that what we want to do in a typical Java, what we'll do in this driver itself, we'll create I mean, we'll create a object for the particular class like this. And instead of doing all these heavy steps, we just say dm dot launch browser and dm dot input selection, as simple as that, right?
So if you don't want to have a hybrid keyword and data driven, you want to have a simple data driven. So it will be that we'll be calling that class with that methods, right?
It is not actually a framework kind of thing. If you do that, it's not an actual proper framework implementation. Why I'm saying is like, see, it is not a single test class that we are going to have, right? Yeah, if it's a reflection kind of thing, you can have n number of classes. You can search for the method that you declared in all the classes, and you can invoke the particular method through reflections like this. But if you wanted to do using directly calling these methods and all, so we will not know which class the method actually exists, right? Now this is single class implementation. We directly used this particular class and create an object. For what if I have another class like this, driver methods, two driver methods I don't have, I'm just saying d2 is equal to new driver methods. So I can keep on going at like this. So you wanted to iterate through all the classes here in the main method and check what are the methods that are available in the particular class, and you should know, like, for this particular test case, what are the methods I should execute, right? Every method you will not execute for every test case. So how will you drive an actual test case then if you don't have this method names uh, in an Excel sheet, provided that you are not using a testng kind of framework or Cucumber kind of framework currently in our thing, right? We will not know, right? See, if we have a testng kind of thing, we'll see testng tomorrow. But what I'm trying to say is, like, if you have testng kind of thing, we'll have this artist annotation. We will know, okay, this artist annotation, everything will be executed, and whatever method called in this artist annotation will be called. We'll know definitely for this test case, these methods will be called. But without doing that, how much things you will do to actually drive a test case to call the method, corresponding methods to a test case? It's not actually possible, right, in this typical straightforward implementation. So only we are having this reflection kind of things to invoke the methods from the Excel sheet. If you don't use testng or a Cucumber kind of thing, then this is the way to go. You have to get the data from the Excel sheet only, and you have to drive the methods. Otherwise, we will not know for which test case which method should be called. There should be some mapping kind of thing.
So no, Karthik, what I meant to ask was, like, here you have showed us doing that keyword driven, like hybrid with using the keyword and data driven, right? Okay. In generally, okay, with respect to data driven. So as we are calling the methods, from there we can still access the, as you have the like, reading the Excel sheet using two methods, right? Per row and per column, right? So if you want to do the data driven, okay, simple data driven, still we can use that methods and access it, right? That the Excel sheet.
Yeah, you can use method access. Just that in this example, we have to call, just comment out all these things, and we just have to call directly the methods.
Yeah.
Dot.
You want to have a simple data driven, that would work.
Yeah,
right?
that would work. Yeah,
that approach would work.
Yeah.
But if you want to have then like, for like the reflection, I think I missed with the sessions with the reflection side. But I think I need to go through with that. So when you're using such like hybrid framework, so you meant to say that we can go with a reflection kind of implementation. So we can have the both included, keyword driven and data driven, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So when you're using data driven only, you can directly do this, something like this. Am I getting it right?
Yeah. Karthik, if you don't mind me asking, you covered reflections already, right?
Yes, Shiva.
Okay. I think I missed it.
Okay, actually, even I have to upload all these videos actually. Maybe I'll try to do that today itself. The remaining videos which I needed to upload.
Okay.
And Shiva, sorry, I couldn't connect with you yesterday. We'll try to do
Yeah.
this within half an hour. Are you, if you were free by 10, just ping me. 10 o'clock or
Sure,
ten
sure.
fifteen. You just ping me,
Sure,
we'll
sure.
connect.
Yeah. Once this is done, I thought of pinging you anyways. So
Okay. Okay, I think we can wrap the session. We'll continue with TestNG tomorrow. And how we can integrate this TestNG, we'll see. So, any other thing apart from this, Mithun or Shiva? I think Vinay just dropped off.
No, Karthik.
Okay, then I'm wrapping up the session.
yeah, thanks, Karthik.
Thank you.